I don't ever think I've heard a bass track in a death metal song be this up front. Like, how did he get away with this? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lone University. It's been a while since we've done some extremely heavy music, and that changes today. With Job for a Cowboy, I've had a lot of recent requests for this band, specifically from the album Sun Eater, which is their fourth studio album released in 2014, featuring bassist Nick Schendzielos and drummer Danny Walker. Quick story, I'm putting this together now reading their page. I was on tour with Intronaut, who Danny Walker drums for. This was almost 10 years ago to the day in Europe with Scale the Summit. And we were in a van all crammed in there together. And one of the best memories of that tour, or the most distinct memories, was he was rehearsing in his mind on headphones to play drums for this record. I'm putting together the timeline now. And the entire tour, even later at night when we're trying to take naps, all we heard in the van was... and it got so annoying, and it's funny thinking about it now. And honestly, if I was in his position, I would be doing the same thing. So just a funny thing, I kind of recalled reading this. But nonetheless, we're going to be doing the track Son of Nihility. And I'm told this bass part is extremely forward and really busy. I don't think I've really heard any Job for a Cowboy. So let's get into it. Son of Nihility by Job for a Cowboy. Ooh. Double stops. Throaty tone. Kind of in D here. Going from D to E flat. A lot of diminished sounding things here. That's, of course, a signature Warwick sound. Nick Schendzielos is a buddy of mine. I've known him from the Warwick days. And I don't think he ever played a thumb bass, and I'm 99% sure he's used a Warwick Dolphin for the longest time on studio records. We've talked about this at length over the years, that he's tried to use a Warwick Dolphin on almost every recording. There's some sort of mojo to it, and I believe it because those stock German-made Warwicks are just another breed of bass and bass tone. It cuts through. I don't think there's a bass brand that cuts through even close to the way Warwick does, and you can hear that throaty, gurgly just tone that no matter how heavy the track is, it cuts through. And it's not even that heavy yet, but I know enough about Warwick to know no matter how heavy a composition gets, it cuts through. Such a signature sound. Just smooth stuff around D minor. Woo! That was cool. See, guitars come in, you can still hear that bass. Granted, yeah, it is mixed pretty loud, but they almost didn't even need to, because I promise you that tone would still be very audible, even in the densest of mixes. So that first part was sort of like a call and response. I really like the openness of it. I haven't heard the vocals yet. I'm sure just based on the font of this band title, I know it's going to get pretty extreme. But that kind of had like an Opeth vibe to me, just in terms of the space, where it was really heavy, but it wasn't fast, brutal heavy yet. And the bass was kind of calling and responding, if you will, with that guitar riff and the drum hits. The drums would break, do a little fill. The bass kind of had a time to shine with those. Kind of going between those half steps, E flat and D. So it's setting up a very busy bass performance, which I'm all for it. Let's keep it going. Unison with the guitar there. Woo. Grooves. G. Kind of going up to G now. Almost has like a Phrygian Dominant sound. I kind of hear those half steps that are close together. It might not be exactly that mode or scale, but that's just kind of the tonality I'm hearing. And something interesting about the writing style I'm kind of noticing, at least for this first part, is that they're not focusing on fast accents. They kind of hit a beat and they fill out all these extra chord tones. It's very wrung out, sustained, kind of multiple note chords, which is really big guitar chords. And that's kind of offering a playground for Nick, the bassist, to kind of accentuate. You know, the guitar's playing 5, 6 notes on some of those chords. It sounds like really ringing them out, and it's kind of spelling out the bass fill possibilities he can do those little runs on. Just an interesting composition style for death metal, I suppose. I'm not super well versed in this genre, but the songs I have done here on the channel, Beyond Creation, First Fragment, Arcspire, there's some amazing musicianship going on. And you kind of have to look past the heavy vocals and the brutal nature of it, because it's really fantastic musicianship almost every time I listen to a band like this. I want to hear how it goes into that. I kind of paused at a weird spot. Let's see. Right into it. Now it's getting fast. Woo! Nice. Ooh, I heard those tritones in the bass. I don't know if it was D. I heard that. It's kind of Mudvayne-ish. I know Nick's a big fan of Ryan Martini. Of course, I've hung out with all three of those guys at Warwick before, so I know he probably gleaned a lot of stylistic stuff from Ryan. Pretty sure I remember him telling me that, and I can kind of hear that influence there. Listen to that double stop. Awesome. All over the place. Just smooth sliding around. He's got some really interesting phrasing going on, where you could play a bass fill kind of like this. Let's say a little kind of scalular bass fill like that. He's kind of doing these big like, putting like additional slides in there. It kind of sounds like that's how he's phrased it, but instead of just kind of doing it in one position, adding slides where they don't have to be, but it kind of gives it this really driving, moving, more lyrical sound, almost like a smoother sound that contrasts with the kind of the rest of the music. That's kind of how it sounds to me. Wide, going from way down here to way up here, and using slides to get around. And I think that helps the part as a bass melody, if you will, kind of cut through. And it's cool because when they get really fast and chuggy, he's not venturing out. He's aligning with the singular force of that. But as soon as those guitar chords stop and kind of go back to that ringing out style that kind of harkens back to the beginning, he's very quick to jump up and do some of these slides just to kind of renounce his presence. Really cool writing style. Still kind of in D. There's one. B flat. Cool. So I hadn't heard that. It's kind of like the bridge went up to sort of the sixth there and a D minor. So kind of a tonal shift there. It sounded like some really good bass fills were starting to fire off. Let's hear that. D. Sounds Sounds like he's on a low B flat there. Sounds like he might be tuned down here. Yeah. Woo. A lot of nice color there. I thought I heard a B diminished in there. Let's hear that again. That was a really cool kind of little turnaround and added a lot of color to this progression. Really cool. I want to address this tone for a second. I'm going to go ahead and link this again. I did a demo between different Warwick basses showcasing their stock pickups, which again, I'm 99% sure that's what he's using here, versus Warwick's with other EMG pickups, which I kind of like the more subdued, warmer sound. But if you want to kind of understand why the Warwicks cut through the way they do, it's really those stock MEC pickups. They're voiced so uniquely. It's something about it kind of adds this hollowness to the low end that doesn't clutter up the kick drum and kind of the low end wolfiness of the guitars. It's kind of scooped out, and they're just innate voicings in their pickups, and it kind of focuses more on the low mids, 300 or 400 hertz. That's kind of the secret. If you're playing in heavy genres like this, try a Warwick. Get your hand on one if you're having problems cutting through. You know, this is not a genre where you'd want to use a Fender jazz bass, Fender P bass, nothing like that. Maybe a Spectre. Spectres have their own kind of unique growl, but playing in progressive metal bands and recording albums, I mean, I didn't have to do much at all to the Warwick tone. It was pretty flat going in. And it's just like they're almost out of the factory. They're voiced to just blend so well in these dense compositions. But it's something about those low mids, 300 hertz, 400 hertz area. And of course, they have a really signature crisp high end. A lot of people speculate it has to do with the brass frets, the brass nut. I'm not sure if their two-piece bridges have something to do with it, but it's kind of just an acquired taste tone that works really well, kind of singularly for cutting through a mix like this. And it's just, you can't replicate it on any bass. But I'm just hearing how well that works in these riffs. I can hear the separation between the bass and the guitar. It's not like this just mush of, you know, I can hear the separation. And I'm sure it wasn't hard for the mix engineer to achieve that due to that bass tone. So this is a really good lesson in how a bass can absolutely cut through in death metal and heavier genres. Very cool. It's separated. You can hear it. Woo. Cool. Back kind of the intro here. Woo. Little bits popping out. I have to say about the composition, man, this is probably the busiest bass I've ever heard in this genre. He's getting away with just so much. It's really inspiring to know that, you know, you can have a bass performance like this in such a dense genre. There's a lot going on. And I have to credit a lot of it to just the writing of the guitar and drum parts. They've kind of like left space for the bass to really breathe. And he's taking those opportunities to fill it in. If he's not mirroring the guitar in that particular moment, he's kind of calling back to what the guitar might have done a couple beats before. Again, with those ringing out chords, those are kind of prescribing 4 or 5 notes that he can play. Just a creative way of writing. I could sit here and dissect every little fill he's doing. It would be a very long video. But the lesson here, and I talk a lot about this in clinics I've done, lessons and I've taught to different students, is that you're trying to stand out as a bass player in a composition. And this is proving that you can do it even in genres like this, all the way down to jazz, funk. The key is to think about it like getting on a bus. You're not going to go sit in a seat that's already occupied. You're not going to sit on somebody. You're going to look for the empty seats. And you have to get good at doing that with a composition. You know, if you're in a position to listen to a song demo, a song idea, without any bass on it yet, most demos in rock and metal kind of start with a riff and maybe a programmed drums or something. But you're hearing the song without the bass. And I've been given songs like that a lot. And I'm thinking of it like, where is nothing else? That's kind of the question I asked, if that makes sense. Where is nothing else? Where are the empty seats on the bus when I listen to this song? Where can I fill in my bass part? What can I latch onto and complement? What can I latch onto to elevate without stepping on what's already there? It's kind of an exercise in just philosophy, musically. And on every album I've recorded, I've tried to take that approach, but this is a masterclass in how to do it in a really tough genre to cut through. There's so much going on. So just a little lesson tidbit there on composing bass for rock and metal. I know you guys ask me this stuff a lot in the comments, but I mean, Nick kills it on this type of stuff. Really great. Kind of keeping it simple here. Getting to the end of the song, that's the time the bass player just starts letting loose, right? Listen to it. I heard that B flat. Kind of up there. That is Phrygian Dominant. Phrygian Dominant. I don't know if it was quite hitting those same notes earlier, but that's definitely it right there. G, F sharp, E flat, and D. Phrygian Dominant is if you take a harmonic minor scale and you start on the 5th degree and go up. If you don't know what a harmonic minor scale is, it's just a minor scale with a raised 7. So if you do that same scale starting on the 5th degree, you kind of get this more happier version of the harmonic minor. I always say it's like a major scale and a harmonic minor scale had a baby. It's kind of a major scale with a little bit of tension. Of course, it has that more Eastern sound, but you can hear that clear as day right here. Yep. Very cool. Very, very cool. That was a really fascinating listen to hear that type of a bass performance in a genre like this. Really interesting. I guess I've been sleeping on Job for a Cowboy. You know, again, Nick Schendzielos is an old friend from the Warwick days. I'm much more familiar with his work in Havoc, Cephalic Carnage, and I must have just missed really getting into this album. Again, Job for a Cowboy, death metal. This is kind of an end of the metal spectrum. I kind of stopped. I've not gone that far in the woods. So to me, I have not heard a bass performance like this in a genre like this. And I'm sure those exist. You know, I've done a couple here on the channels we talked about, but please let me know. I would love to check them out on the channel. I'm largely unfamiliar with the really heavier scenes of music. You know, I stayed more in the progressive lane. And that's kind of where I am today. So amazing performances, really thoughtful, ingenuitive bass playing, really capitalizing on any chance possible to slip through a crack and add something that complemented the riff or the drums. And it's very challenging to compose a part like that that doesn't sound like it's overplayed. You know, never once did it sound like he was overplaying. He was putting the fills in thoughtful places and around the vocals. And it was time to just have a singular wall of sound. He laid off the crazy stuff. He just hunkered down on the roots, you know, whatever. And that's just great self-awareness as a bass player, but still able to have some fun and dance around the riffs. Thank you guys. This was really great. This was actually a recent request. I've seen it come up a few times, but thanks for reminding me. I look forward to doing more. Please make sure you guys are subscribed, like the video, all that great stuff. I love you all. Cheers, and we will see you next time.